Before this video starts, if you are watching this video, there is about a 50% chance that you are not subscribed to this channel. So if you are watching videos on this channel consistently and you are not subscribed already, then please be sure to do that so you can get notifications for when the videos are out and so that my ego can be massaged by more numbers. Also drop a like on this video, it only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. But with that out of the way, today I wanted to talk about the MVP race in the NBA thus far. And I do want to clarify right out of the gate, which I'm pretty sure a million people are going to say in the comment section regardless. It has been like at the max, I think like 16 games for some teams. Like we're just getting out of the gates here and a lot of things can change. The race right now is not clear cut and there are going to be guys who right now are on the outside looking in that are going to be towards the top by the end of the year. At least that's definitely possible. Small sample size. I just want to talk about what this race looks like early. I think 15 or so games, even 12 on the lower end, is enough to at least start painting the picture for what the race could look like. But I can also talk about why I believe some guys who are at the top right now probably won't be there by the end of the season. So I'm just going to go over some of the bigger names in this race. I asked on Twitter for names just to be sure that I didn't forget anybody. There were some guys who I'm not going to mention in this video. I saw Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's not going to win an MVP, even if he is playing very good. I'm very confident he's not going to win an MVP. Anthony Davis, he's not going to win an MVP, I don't think. James Harden, I don't think is going to win an MVP. But outside of those guys, here are the names that I decided to go with. Joel Embiid, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, and Stephen Curry. Those are my top, 6 players? Yes, it is. Also, oh shit, also Paul George. I forgot about Paul George. He has also been fantastic. But I also think Paul George is like, he's not going to win that award even if he deserves it because nobody is giving Paul George an MVP with how much shit he gets. But I guess I can talk about him first since he slipped my mind. So thus far this year, he's averaging 24, 6, and 5 assists. The 5 assists is definitely nice to see because the Clippers need that playmaking. And he is currently shooting 50% from 3 on 8 attempts per game and 51% from the field. And that leads to a 68% true shooting percentage. And the Clippers are currently 11-4. And I believe they're on a 4-game winning streak. Something like that, and they've just looked very good, and Paul George has looked very good. The reason why I don't think he's going to win this award, if I'm eliminating him, which I am, is because, one, nobody likes Paul George anymore, which it's unfortunate that is a factor here, but it is. 2, pretty clear he's not the best player on his team, even if statistically in the regular season he appears to be better than Kawhi Leonard. We all know that Kawhi Leonard is better, and you're not really going to win an MVP when everyone knows you're the second best player on your team. And 2, he's not going to have a 68% true shooting percentage for the entire season. If he does, then fuck it, he'll win MVP, but I am almost certain that is not going to happen. Steph Curry is an interesting case because the Warriors are not as amazing in the win column, but they're also not as bad as some people were expecting. I wasn't worried about this team nearly as much as many people were after the rough start, but they are 8-7, which is good for 7th in the Western Conference, which right now is not good enough to win an MVP award. And as of right now, I also don't believe the Warriors are going to crack into even the top 5 in the Western Conference. So for that reason, I feel like I'm pretty confident in eliminating Steph Curry as well. One little side thing that's kind of funny about Curry right now, he's shooting 37% from 3 on about 11 attempts a game, which under normal circumstances is like, wow, that guy's a really good shooter. Like 37% is just a bit above league average, but on 11 attempts, that's awesome. But looking at a 37% three-point percentage next to Steph Curry doesn't really make sense because he's a career 43% three-point shooter, and at his peak, he was a 45% three-point shooter on 11 attempts. So it feels weird to see a 37% from 3 next to Curry's name. I imagine that's going to pick up. He is the greatest shooter of all time. No argument there. If you think there is, you're wrong. But I think I can eliminate him due to the fact that I don't think the Warriors are going to be good enough. And that is an important factor. I guess I can use the next guy here as an example for why that's an important factor. I have Nikola Jokic pulled up right here. As of right now, the Denver Nuggets have not been good. They are at 500 right now. The team around Nikola Jokic has not been as amazing. Jamal Murray has not held up his bubble play, which honestly I kind of expected. I think there were a few too many people jumping the gun on him. I didn't even put him in my top 10 point guards because I didn't believe that he really was and that the bubble was an outlier. Although under normal circumstances he would have been like if he was that player, he'd have been like 5 on my list. But I didn't believe that he was, and he has not been. But Jokic is currently averaging a triple-double on good efficiency. His true shooting percentage is 66%, so very hot shooting from him. 25 points per game, which is easily the highest of his career. 5.2 more points than last year. He's also averaging 2 steals, which is interesting. Jokic is not going to be a rim protector, and if he can find a way to impact defense by being better at getting in passing lanes, then that's a way to do it. I still think it's better to be a conventional rim protector and all that. It's something, I guess. And steals are not indicative of how good of a defender he actually is, because he's still not a good defender, but he's getting steals, so that's something. But here's another case where the hot shooting, I doubt, is going to continue. That true shooting percentage is ridiculous, and the Nuggets are not winning right now. I do believe that the Nuggets will be a top 4 seed or so in the Western Conference, and I think they could even eventually make their way up to like number 2 as the season goes on. But I do not think they're going to be good enough, and I don't think Jokic is going to average a triple-double throughout the entire year on this efficiency. I think, if anything, Jokic's numbers are probably going to come down similar to what they were last year, and the Nuggets are going to start winning more games, and he didn't win an MVP last year under those circumstances, so don't think he wins one this year. If he's able to maintain these stats and the Nuggets start being really good, 25-point triple-double on 66% true shooting, yeah, that wins you an MVP with a good team in the West, but I don't believe that's going to happen. Also, it's worth mentioning that there are only 72 games this year, so like 16 or 14 or 12 or whatever games it is, it seems bigger. It's bigger than normal. Like, there's 10 less games this year, so it's a bigger percentage of the available games of the season. So yeah, Jokic, the Nuggets are not good enough. Luka Doncic is kind of another situation. The Mavericks are also 500 with a 7-7 record right now. He has played 13 games, 26 points, 10 rebounds, almost 10 assists, 4 turnovers, and his efficiency from 3 has been a big talking point because it has not been good. Now, interestingly, he's kind of caught it up closer to what he was last year, currently shooting 28% from 3 on 7 attempts, when last year he shot 31%, although I will say last year Luka shot 33, almost 34% for most of the year, and then I think when it came to the bubble, the last 8 games, he really just could not shoot. It was either that or like closing out the season before the season was shut down. He went on a cold streak, and that brought his percentage down dramatically. But Luka's shooting is certainly an interesting thing to talk about. My biggest argument for it is that Luka is an okay shooter on a high volume of attempts. Like, he can be a decent shooter on a high volume of attempts. The problem is that so many of those attempts are contested, step back, pull-up shots, when I believe Luka should be having about a split half and half between catch and shoot 3-point shots and the step back and contested and the pull-up 3-point shots. I understand that Luka's catch and shoot percentages thus far in his career have not been amazing. However, he's also A, not played with a great playmaker, and that can make a difference, and B, had a very low volume of catch and shoot attempts to the point where I'm not all that confident that if he was given those attempts, you wouldn't see that percentage improve. In fact, I'm confident in the opposite direction, where I do believe we would see Luka be like a 36% shooter on like 8-9 attempts per game if he got more off-ball action and got more catch and shoot opportunities. So the issue with Luka's shooting is that he's shooting threes like he's as good of a shooter as James Harden when he's not. That's really the biggest thing. Like, James Harden can shoot 38% from 3 on 13 threes a game, and 4 out of every 5 of those threes are off of the dribble because he's one of the greatest shooters of all time. Luka is taking pretty much the same strategy with his shooting, but he's not one of the greatest shooters of all time. So the percentages show themselves right there. So on top of the fact that Luka is struggling from the field, his true shooting percentage is not as amazing as it was last year, and the Mavericks are not winning right now. And I don't think in the long term the record's going to be quite good enough. Even though Luka was my original MVP pick, because the Mavs have looked kind of rough out of the gates, my confidence in that pick is not as high. Though, if I was going to pick anybody out of the guys who have kind of dismissed early to come back and really get in this conversation, it would be Luka Doncic, because I believed in him so much as an MVP candidate. Next up, and then really the last 3, is where this race gets real interesting. The first guy that I think I can eliminate of these top 3, the 3 left are Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Joel Embiid. Kevin Durant has been insane, but the thing about Kevin Durant is he's so good and he does what he does so nonchalantly that, like, it almost doesn't seem like he's as insane as he has been. Durant is averaging 31, 7, and 6, playing good defense. He has a true shooting percentage of 67%. So 31 points per game, 6 assists, 7 rebounds, good defense on almost 70% true shooting. That's some bonkers shit right there. Issue is, as I've said with these other guys, Nets right now are not very good, but I do believe the Nets are going to be one of the top 3 seeds in the East once they kind of get everything figured out with James Harden and they figure out their system and all that, and their defense hopefully takes a bit of a leap from the abysmal defense it has been thus far. The issue with Kevin Durant right now is that he has James Harden and Kyrie Irving on his team. So the amount of opportunity is going to dip a little bit because he's played a lot of games solo because Kyrie Irving had an absence and then James Harden had a couple of games where he wasn't there. Kevin Durant, I think, is going to come down to more like a very efficient like 27, and he's going to have 2 other guys on his team that are averaging like 25 to 30 points per game as well. So for that reason, I do not believe that Kevin Durant is going to win MVP, but he's definitely going to be in a position to win. And thus far this year, he has been crazy. And it speaks to how good Kevin Durant is that it doesn't even seem that crazy because he plays basketball. And I tweeted this. I was like, he doesn't even bother creating space half of the time to shoot, because he doesn't really need to. So he'll just walk up the court and there'll be a defender in front of him who contests the shit out of his shot, and it looks like he just doesn't care. I think I've heard someone say, I'm not sure who, that like Kevin Durant makes basketball look so easy, and then this is kind of unrelated. And then this is kind of unrelated, but then Kyrie Irving makes basketball look so hard, while both are amazing scorers. But Kevin Durant, like Kyrie does a million moves to create space, and then Kevin Durant just walks up the court and is like, I'm just shooting it, and it's probably going to go in because I'm Kevin Durant. Fuck you, I'm better. But yeah, I don't think Kevin Durant is winning MVP. As of right now, the 2 biggest favorites to me have to be Joel Embiid and LeBron James. Now, if I was picking one of these 2 to be the MVP this year, if I had to predict who the MVP is going to be between these 2 after closing out this year, it would have to be LeBron James, simply because I do not believe Joel Embiid is going to maintain this level of play, nor do I believe the Sixers are going to be as good as they have been thus far. But for his credit, Joel Embiid has been fantastic this year. 26 points per game, 11 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game. And really what's been most important for Embiid thus far is the jumpers are hitting. The 3-point shot, he's at about 37% on 3 attempts per game, which is definitely huge because he has been a poor 3-point shooter for every year except for his rookie year. The mid-range shot out of the face-up and out of the fadeaway, it's just like, I watched that Sixers Celtics game, and the amount of fadeaways and face-up jump shots he was hitting, like, there was nothing the defense could do. Joel Embiid is pretty good at those things, but this year he has been amazing at them. And those mid-range shots just keep dropping, and the 3-point shot has been dropping. My only thing is, I don't know how long that's going to maintain itself. And while the Sixers are currently 10-5, which I believe it's the number 1 in the East. I don't know if that's the best record in the NBA, but it's up there. Joel Embiid, I don't think he is going to maintain the shooting, and I don't think the Sixers are going to remain the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference in the long term. So I'm going to pick out of everyone here LeBron James, because while LeBron probably statistically is the least outlier from his normal self here, it's only like 24, 8, and 8, and like a good true shooting percentage, but not like outstanding. He has a 59% true shooting percentage, which is actually, I believe, the lowest of anyone I have said here. But the difference is the Lakers have been really good. They are 12-4, which I believe is it's a better record than the Sixers. So that answers that question. They have the best record in the league. LeBron James has just been good the whole way through. I don't think I'd actually argue statistically he is, after Luka Doncic and maybe Steph, he's probably the worst statistically, but he's just been solid all around, and the Lakers have been very good. If I had to pick MVP right now, like if the season ends right now, 12 games in, and I have to pick an MVP, I'm going Joel Embiid. But if I'm making a pick of these 2, who I believe is most likely to win an MVP after the rest of this season goes by, it would be LeBron James. Now, this MVP race, as I mentioned at the start of this, it can go in a different direction. There are players that can fall off, players that can get higher on the rankings. I still believe Luka is going to be probably a top 5 MVP candidate by the end of this year. I think Steph Curry could probably be that as well. But as of right now, if I had to pick an MVP to close this season, I'm going with Joel Embiid. If I had to pick a guy of these candidates who I think is most likely to win an MVP at this point, I'm probably going with LeBron James. There is a chance that a guy like Luka comes in and steals it away, but I think right now I'm changing my pick of MVP this year from Luka to LeBron. But It can obviously change. This is just the MVP race so far in the 2021 NBA season. But that's just kind of my thoughts on the MVP race early. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video. I really appreciate him. He's very beautiful. And that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music. Holy shit, this video is long.